Garage. Today we're out here with Jeff Stevens' 2005 Avalanche. We have 5 days left. So today's day 5 and we need to get all the little things done because Steve-O is headed back to school 5 days. So today we got his door open and he's got blown out factory speakers in the front door. So we got the passenger door here. We're putting in some kicker speakers. These are 6.5 inch. They are 6.5 inch coaxials, 240 watts peak. They are the DSC6504. I'll link them in the description below. We think these will be absolutely adequate for the sound system that he has in here, which is just a replacement, head unit with a screen, backup camera. It's not like an Apple CarPlay one or anything like that. It's a pretty basic one. Rear speakers sound real good. Front speakers blown out. So just a quick speaker swap is all we're going to do. With that, we got to get this door panel off. These panels come off generally pretty easy, and we'll take you through the process. It's been a little while since I've taken one of these panels off, but I have a 2/4 inch drive sockets, one metric, one standard, 1/4 inch drive ratchet and extension. I call this pneumatic ratchet, a little pocket screwdriver, and a trim removal tool. Let's see what we got. So coming in on this panel, I know this has got to come off. This is the just the bezel for the latch, and you could just pop that out with a trim removal or a pocket screwdriver. I like to see it went in this way, so I want to put it on my dash facing that same direction so I don't flop it around. You'll see you got a little a screw in there. It's got a Phillips head, but it's also got a nut around it. You have one over here. You also have this panel here, which is going to come out. If you go from the top, I believe is the best way to do it. Pull this out, you can see how it goes in. So big clip going in that way, and then these two push clips. Pretty easy. All right. Then it looks like, I believe this has got to come off on these. Talking with the screwdriver in my mouth. So that pops off pretty easy. Now this panel does go up, so it's sitting on a lip up here. So the panel, once you loosen everything up, is going to come up a little bit. Now these here, I don't remember. Oh, that's just a cap. Look at that. Now in the GMT 800s, there are variations here. So that one was a cap. Some of them don't have anything here. Some of them got a complete push pin on it. On this inside one, it's a Christmas tree style clip. So you pull it out nice with the trim tool. Some of them have a Christmas tree over here as well. Depending on what year, they can have some subtle differences, but not a whole lot. All right, so what kind of screw is that? That is, looks like an Allen. Could be a Torx. I think that's a Torx there. So let me get my Torx driver. The only thing I didn't grab. And it's a T20 Torx. So this is a long shouldered washer sleeve thingy. Have not come across that before. I got this guy here. I don't believe this guy here has to come out, but we do have a, looks like a 7mm, well, close to it. Maybe a 7 or an 8 probably. Try the 7 first. Yep, it's going to be a 7. All right, there's your 7. And I think that is everything. Comes up. Let's see if it goes up. Okay. So bring it straight up and then pulling it out. You can see on the inside here, these how the clips go on it. So it's just a straight up kind of thing. There are no push clips on these panels. So we got some wires on the panels. All right, one for this light. Down on the bottom, we have our switches. Now our switches on these, there's a screw from underneath that holds this whole bezel on, so you don't want to mess those switches up. So you want to come in this way, and you want to try to disconnect all of your wiring harnesses. They all have a little push lock on them, so you do them by feel, and you should be able to unclip all of them fairly easily. Okay. So once you get all the electrical connections disconnected, there's just one thing that I want to show you here. Most of them pop in and they just got a little push release like a standard connector. However, there is a big one that goes in there, and that big one has a actual lock lever. You can see here when it's seated, it's like that, and then you got to take this lever and you got to push it all the way down like that in order to release it. That's the big one. So once you got all them, you got access to the speaker. This speaker has absolutely been replaced. That is not the factory speaker. Now, we didn't have an issue with the speaker on this side. That is not the factory speaker. It actually says Pioneer on it. We didn't have a problem with this speaker. We do have a problem with the driver's side door speaker. I just chose to do this one first. We bought them in a set, so this one's going to come out anyway. But we're going to pull this out. It looks like it's held in with all Phillips head screws. And we'll yank that guy out. So with the everything else pretty much out of the way, I'm going to take these screws out. I really was expecting to see the factory speaker in here, but we don't know the history of this car at all. And that's what happens when you don't know the history. Okay. Here's the speaker. That's how it's wired. It's a Pioneer. Looks like a kind of a cheap end speaker. Okay, and I got the wires off. Now what I do want to do is, let's see, you got a big end and a small end. The small end is usually a negative, and it's got the black stripe on it. And then you got your bigger end that doesn't. So the black stripe one is going to be darker green and the lighter green. So you got a light green and a dark green, and I want to make sure that positive and negative are positive and negative on these before I reuse this connection here, because if they're not, I am going to cut the wires back and use a new connection. I might actually do that anyway, because I don't know. Let me see what comes in the box with the speakers that we bought. Now, we use these kicker speakers in Emily's Jeep and Amanda's Jeep. They've been really good to us. Magnets are a little bigger than those Pioneers that we took off. All right, and that's the speaker there. And I think what I will do is probably run new wires also. I might as well. I'm in here. No reason not to. Make sure the connections are good and solid. So according to the directions, the big side is your positive and the little side is your negative. Kind of assume that, but you always want to verify, which means that the side with the black stripe is your little side. That's your little connector. And without, is your big, so your positive and your negative. So now all we got to do is look up and see what GM's wiring is on their color chart. So after a little research, we determined that the light green is positive, the dark green is negative. So I am gonna snip these off. We got plenty of wire there. Take my strippers. And I'm gonna strip about 3/4 of an inch of insulation off. Of each one. And I'm going to give them a little twist. Now we can take our ends. I like to pull them apart a decent amount. That's just me, makes it a little easy to work with. We're going to tape them together in the end. And on these side, I'm going to strip about an inch of insulation off of each one. Like that. You can see they're tinned on the top, which is fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my reds here and I'm going to slide this wire. Hopefully I'm on camera. Ooh, that's tight. So too tight for reds. Let's see if this end will go in. It might work. It's gonna be tight going in that way. A little too tight for the reds. The insulation on the wires was making it too tight, not the so let me get blues. Alright, so now I got blues. I'll make it much easier with the blues. The only problem using the blues is they're just so much fatter. And it takes more heat to melt the solder, but it's not really necessary. So our black stripe is going to go with our green, dark green. And I am going to give it a good twist, get it nice and tight, and then I can slide my connector over so that my solder ring is right in the middle of the two connectors. And then I'll turn my torch guy on here. See, once it gets hot enough, the solder ring liquefies and you can see it go into the wire. And when that happens, you know you got a nice connection. And then just finish it off on the ends, making sure those blue rings melt a little bit. They form a nice seal on the wire. That's it. Just let it cool. And then what I'll do is repeat the process on the positive wire. Once they cool down, I do like to use heat shrink or electrical tape. In this situation, I'm just going to use electrical tape because it's a little bit easier. And just give it a wrap. What always worries me about these low temp solder connectors is that when you're melting it, like a pointy fray of wire could poke through because they seem incredibly thin. Although I haven't had a failure since I've been using them, and it's been a few years, they do seem incredibly thin. And these are not, I didn't buy a good brand. I'm almost done with them, and the next time I'm probably going to look to buy a brand name. I think there's a brand name out there that seemed to be a little better quality. Not, like I said, not that I've had an issue with these. And then what I'll do is I'll go back to the factory wrap and I'll just give it a little wrap. even though they're supposed to be weather tight, I'll just do this for a little added insurance. Really can't hurt. You do get water in this cavity here, so I just want to make that nice. All right, so now that's done. Positive is positive, negative is negative. I know that's good in there. I can throw that back in and let me test fit the speaker. So moving on to the speaker, it does seem that I can grab the same holes, but I don't know if the screws are really going to be long enough. They're not. So the original screws are not going to be long enough. So I'm going to get some screws that are a little bit longer. All right, well, at some point during the tightening of the screws, my GoPro overheated, so you didn't get all that. It turns out two of the screws, screws that came in the speaker box, were not tightening up because the holes were a little too big. But two of them tightened up, so I used other screws that I had on my bench. Speakers are in there nice and tight, and now we just got to make sure they work before we button everything back up.
Clinically proven to help you perform in bed. For 20% off your entire first order, go to ro.co/better. That's ro.co/better.
All right, speaker works. Took me a little bit to get the figure out how to use the radio. Speaker works. Door panel. Go back on. We are good to go. All right, so now that you're all done with what you're going to do, you can put this plastic draft shield back. If it doesn't re-stick itself, you can use some duct tape or some tape. One thing that I did screw up when I was taking this apart was right here. This little screw that I mentioned, I didn't think had to come out, but it's supposed to come out because it clips in to the door. Not all years have this. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to reattach it to the door panel. I'll show you. And then we'll put this back in once we get the door panel on. So, all right, just like that. And that's how that goes. So now, what I like to do is hold the door panel up. You take this little light bulb, fish it through that hole, and now we got to connect all our connections back to our switches. All right, so once you got all your wires in, you can make sure your bottom two clips go in. And lift it up top for your top clips, and then slide it down. All right, you're gonna know you're all the way down when your holes line up. So you got your Christmas tree clip here and this screw there. When those holes line up, you know you're all the way in place. And I am going to put this one that I didn't take out initially back in. Just give a little snug. Right, and then I have my long one that goes right up under the grab handle. All right, and that one's in. Now I got this, which is a T20 Torx, so I can slide this in, find that hole. I can take the cap for this one, try to pop it back on. There we go. Pops on. Christmas tree clip for the inside one. All right, that one's in. My little window mirror access trim panel. Bottom clips in first, and then there's two plastic clips on the top. Just line them up. That's in. All right, what else we got? We got this guy here. This guy's going to clip in the front first, so we're going to grab the handle, slide it around the handle. We're going to get them in the front. slide it in, and then that you can pop and pop. Now that one's in nice and secure. Up here on our lock unlock, all right? So that's going to be unlock, that's going to be lock, and it's going to be like that. So you want to make sure that you got this guy right in the right spot. So it's easier to push it back. This one is going to go in first, and then this guy is going to go over the hole, and you're going to push this side in. Just like that. And you can hear the latch working. That snaps in. The only thing left is your light. Your light plugs back into the housing and it snaps right back in. All right, so you just snap the light back in, and this goes in. This goes first, and then this pops in. When you want to take it out, that goes out and that goes in. All right, so that's it. Got a speaker that's working good on this side for Steven. We'll, even though the one on this door did work, we'll go replace the other one with the matched pair on the other side where he's got a blown out speaker, and he'll be good to go. I'll link everything in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.